Okay, so just want to jump in and start this channel off. I want to give my Christian testimony today, just so anyone watching can see who I am and where I've been and where I'm at now. So I grew up Catholic. I grew up hearing about Jesus, hearing the stories. But I'd say there was a missing piece for me where I never felt it, right? I never felt like God's for sure real. I feel God's love inside of me, that sort of thing. The stories were there, and knowing that Jesus died and these things, but that feeling for me was the missing piece. So I got out of high school in 2016 and unfortunately, jumped into the world, jumped into partying, just living like a worldly lifestyle and chasing the pleasures of the world. And the story, oldest time, right? Those things didn't truly satisfy, and I ended up feeling worse rather than better. So, like I said, graduated in 2016. By 2018, I had kind of came to a low point in my life. I definitely wasn't liking sort of who I was becoming, and just feeling like sort of some darkness creep in, right, through my own actions. So in 2018, there was a very significant moment that occurred where on a random morning I was just going to class, I was going through a drive-thru getting a coffee, felt this overwhelming feeling of love come over me. And the significant thing was that this feeling felt like it was very outside of me. It didn't feel like it came from within me because I was feeling relatively bad inside myself. It felt like it came from an outside source. And it was very overwhelming. I just started crying in my car. And I just knew in that moment, I was like, God's real. God's real. I felt that feeling came from God. And that was all the proof I needed to begin to confidently say, God's real. And I know that. Because I knew the stories, right? But that feeling was missing, and I felt that's when I felt that feeling. So under a year later, roughly 10 or 11 months later, I ended up ending a relationship I was in where I was fornicating, and making the decision to end that relationship and intentionally walk the other direction. I ended the relationship, and I began to pray every day. And I believe that was in 2019 then. And I believe that's where my relationship with God really started, where I really began to take some action, some intentional action to seek a better version of myself. So I ended the relationship and I began to pray every day. Every night before I went to bed, I'd pray. And from there, little by little, things didn't totally transform overnight, but momentum started to build. I crossed paths with the guy who invited me to a Bible study my last semester of college. And, so I began to go to this Bible study here and there, and, some good habits started to form to replace some old habits. And we kind of kept that Bible study going. It's actually still going. And then later on, I met my now wife, and my father-in-law showed me some things in the Bible that really piqued my interest, and the whole Catholicism aspect of who I was, I started to question. Specifically, he showed me that in the Bible it says that Jesus had physical brothers and sisters born by Mary through her and Joseph having a normal marriage. I never really studied too hard and dove too hard into these stories when I was Catholic, but my sort of understanding was that essentially Joseph was celibate, like a Catholic priest, after Jesus was born, and Jesus grew up as an only child with Mary and Joseph raising him. But I found that out that the Bible actually shows that's not the truth. It shows that Jesus has physical brothers and sisters that were born by Mary after he was born. So that began to have some questions. I began to have some questions for him at that point in time about Catholicism, and it's kind of second guessing that, and trying to double check it. Another big one, it's either in 1st or 2nd Timothy, talks about a bishop being the husband of one wife. So the Catholic priests, they take a vow of celibacy. So I began to see that as unbiblical. And in addition to that, the worship of Mary. And in the Bible, when Jesus is preaching, there's a moment where a woman calls out from the crowd and says, "Blessed is the womb you came from and the breast which you sucked as a baby." And Jesus actually rebukes her and says, "Blessed is not the womb I came from, but blessed is those that hear the word and keep it." And I believe that Bible passage specifically directly contradicts, praying to Mary and looking at Mary as this intercessor figure, which is what the Catholic faith looks at her as. So some of those things started to unravel for me, and realized I was, a non-denominational Christian that just wanted to seek the Bible, seek the truth of the Bible. And more recently, I've been able to get victory over marijuana addiction, something that struggled with for a long time. I can't with 100% confidence say that I will never consume weed again, because I know how addicted I've been in the past and how tempted I can still be by it. But I can say that I feel I've gained like a foothold, and God's really showing me how to fully subtract this from my life, which is what I want. I want to get to the point where I can say I never will consume weed again, and I believe I'm close to there. This year has been a real breakthrough year for me with that. So that's my Christian testimony, where I was, where I am now, and just want to put this out there so that people know where I've been at, and what God's cleansed me from, primarily from fornication and marijuana addiction. So they're the main two things that I've been able to get a foothold over in my life. So we're gonna do some more videos, I think. Thanks for being here. Bye.